Hello fellow counts and countesses of Vargaran. We've all gathered here today to discuss the current state of the realm. Many of you have come here today, but even more have never woken up from their slumber. Defeated, forgotten, frail and even bored of their immortal life. Everything that has a beginning has an ending, well that is what mortal would say. We are the everlasting, at least should be, and because of that, our entertainment should also be unending. And here the silly introduction ends. I thought that talking about Endgame and V-Rising would be easy, just throw some ideas and make a video about it. Stunlock Studios' V-Rising developer mentioned before its first major update that 3 game expansions in total are planned, in its dev blog number 18. First was Gloomrot, second was 1.0 release and the last one is going to be most likely released on May 2025, the Cultist update, dev blog number 27. Since V-Rising isn't a live service game, it is going to be probably left as it is afterwards, on life support until its inevitable death, like Battlerite or Bloodline Champions. With only PvP players coming back for another wipe and couple new players trying out a new game, will be left in obscurity. But what if it could be played long after its initial ending with almost infinite possible playthrough? Technically every multiplayer PvP-oriented game could be classified as that, with every match/game plays differently with additional vectors of variability and overall randomness. But not V-Rising, it is partially a PvP game, but overall progression stays the same from level 1 to 90. PvP is not only an option, it is not that significant even on PvP server. You still kill Alpha Wolf, Quincy, build your castle etc. Even if you got killed multiple times, you can still reach the last tier and killing other vampire is not required for overall progress, except from NPCs. Hell, I had myself played on PvP servers which nobody even tried to do a castle raid, just mostly insignificant resource or bosses skirmishes. Does playing PvP gives the game more variety and progression? Somewhat, if you get killed with resources you need to do it again. Fighting other players can be a way to progress faster or for sake of it. Most PvP servers I've played on had bunch of people playing and after a week only 3 clans are logged on to defend their castles. Rest waits for the next server wipe or goes for another fresh server start. Seems that basic race to the endgame is fun by itself. It might be due to the player level scaling in the game also. If you have 10 levels higher gear, there is not much other player can do to defeat you honestly, and getting level advantage seems like the real endgame and goal of a fresh PvP server. What PvP mode enables is the competitive nature of players and some castle sieging. There is quite a bit of strategy involved in castle defense and siege, but this is not a place to discuss it. Can say that building in PvP has more defensive approach and is tactically oriented, which adds a layer of complexity. But still, you mostly build a shit ton of doors and get raided by 8 clans at the same time. That is my point of view. Maybe more experienced in PvP vampires can add something to this part. During pre-1.0 wait on a public Gloomrot server, we were trying to come out with current endgame ideas for the game. It mostly come to the collectibles and doing certain rare tasks like capture every 100% blood, even werewolf. Get the perfect horse. Catch the fish, clearly fishing endgame. Collect trippy shroom spores. Craft the best shattered weapon for your build. Collect every cape/hat. Get the best servants with the best gear. Build another pretty castle. Beat bosses with 10 levels below. The other idea was to collect grass, since it was one of the resources that your servants couldn't bring from Haunt, so the endgame was collecting as much grass as possible. Of course it was highly speculative and the grass market totally collapsed next day. We were kinda praying for a proper endgame for 1.0 at that point. Did it deliver? Not so much. Do not get me wrong, game is great as it is, but I wish I could squeeze even more fun out of it. With full game release came couple new bosses, new area, brutal mode, and a brand new rift mechanic. One part of a newly added system is the Altar of Stygian Awakening. As mysterious as it sounds, it only adds passive skills, which you buy with shards that comes from rift mechanic. Is it mandatory to beat the last boss? Absolutely not. Is it interesting and build enabling? Maybe, but it is just a dull one-time upgrade in a form of passive ability with zero variety. Second endgame system introduced is the Shattered Weapons upgrades of Sanguine Weapons, which can be found or bought with Rift Shards. Some of the shattered weapons can be legendary, allowing for a different variants of weapons and even changing its movesets. It is great, build enabling, probably, maybe. I usually play with greatsword or whatever I get during my run. I guess can add this to the endgame goals, to collect every legendary variant of weapon. The last gear change was an additional 4 sets of armor and an additional tier of them after defeating each of the shard bosses. It is finally a build enabling and playstyle changing possibility, but even if you collect full set there is not much you can do with it. You have already defeated the last boss without last piece of armor upgrade, guess can go now and bully lower level players on PvP server with it. Do the last boss even faster or go get some plant fibers, the grass market will recover one day. Can build the Dark Throne now at least. So here comes the now what part in the moment when real endgame should begin. The endgame could be defined as the way to play a game for some time after finishing the main storyline. Some single-player games allows you to start over but makes it harder, for example Souls-like lets you replay the game on New Game Plus mode. Some games unlocks a new ability to locate secret rooms or collect grubs for the last health upgrade. New characters, new weapons, new ways to play. Different endings can be possible as a reward and long-time goal of another playthrough. Open-world games are jam-packed with collectibles, but these are usually single-player games, with one-time playthrough for Platinum Trophy achievement. So how about ExpRising? It is a multiplayer PvE PvP open-world survival action RPG. It is also isometric and has vampires in it. Could imagine to pack every type of endgame into it from every genre it includes. Technically brutal mode is a New Game Plus mode, more like New Game Plus Plus, but maybe shouldn't digress here. As previously mentioned, PvP in this title does not expand the endgame experience, only adds additional obstacles in a form of multiple doorknobs and having to repeat some of the farming/bossing cycles. One of the PvE player even considered PvP as a form of endgame by itself for variety's sake. There are some of the arena PvP servers active, but this involves modding which will be described later. Basic components of endgame should contain good amount of progression and variety. Currently, full game ends with defeat of Dracula. So, now what? One way to move forward and answer the annoying question is to build upon existing ARPG system. Taking inspiration from existing, well-received, critically acclaimed ARPG title like Diablo 4, kidding, Path of Exile. An ARPG game with good endgame gives you increasingly difficult content with random rewards, which can be used to upgrade your character, to do more difficult content to get better rewards. The general gameplay loop ends whenever there is no more hard content to beat or when the player achieved their goal. Progression could include improvement of your character, either by offensive or defensive statistics and incrementally difficult content to beat. Easiest way would be numerical increment of boss level, introduction of a new gear and possibility of character improvement over item level cap. The variety could come from different ways of achieving set progression, random enemy encounters or fighting 2 bosses at the same time. Variety could also mean randomly generated equipment or even procedurally generated dungeons. I have chosen the ARPG option as a way to repeat its core gameplay loop combat system. It is very similar to ones presented in previous titles from Stunlock, simple, responsive, and fluent. The other way to improve ExpRising's endgame could be to change game replayability, not building around what happens after level 90, but how fun is to play the game from level 1 to level 90. Good examples of this game feature are popular roguelikes, playing the game until death with randomized equipment and core progression system as a way to get a reward after every run. Not sure if it could be implemented in current state, but would appreciate additional layer of randomness and unpredictability after each of the new start. How about give option to swap couple of bosses, randomize its levels plus -2, with permadeath. In current version, there is a content with random rewards, but it is a forced one to be able to access the last couple bosses, talking about shattered weapons and jewels. Each new run progression variety comes from books in their order, what shot weapon you got and what new jewels you have acquired. The research part comes with a grind and it can be completed 100% every playthrough. The gear progression of 1.0 is consistent, but similarly to update before, cannot do much with it on PvE server. Did brutal mode bring more replayability? At least one more game for me. New boss movesets combined with increased level and damage numbers created a nice challenging run. Did not allow for many gear skips, but still it was a nice touch to the overall game. I played Brutal Mode twice, one on official PvE server, one on PvP server. For comparison, I have played tens of times with standard server settings. The amount of players beating Brutal Mode is 1.5% in comparison to whopping 5% on normal server settings. There are speedruns of this game too, not very popular though, which involves different strategies and overall player improvement with game mechanics. Most popular is the speedrun of Act 1, until you realize that it does not translate well for level 90 progression. As for full game speedruns, current record took about 6 hours, and it is more about resource management and luck than actual combat and skill. It is a way to replay game over and over, but not having a bathroom break for 6 hours straight can take a toll on your bladder. One other thing that I wish for the 1.1 version to have is proper modding support. For the past 2 updates, modding was done with usage of external plugins / framework BEP&X for Unity games. There is a lot of love and support for the game within modding community, with 50+ free mods and basic guides how to make your own. If there could be a possibility to integrate Steam Workshop for the game, would be great. Mod installation is not a black magic and can be done with usage of a wizard, but the Gloomrot modding incident made me hesitant to touch them again. There were Trojan backdoors located within 2 of the free mods. Modding community can be a way to elongate game existence long after last game update, with additional free content and unlimited unofficial backdoor opportunities. Seen some servers using private sets of mods, like GrimmyBear server with permadeath brutal mode, or ever-expanding modding capabilities of Nightbane server, which implemented some sort of dungeon system and their own currency as a way to improve gameplay. Mod that is worth trying for sure is ExpRising, which changes item level progression to classic level experience after killing stuff. The sky is the limit with this one. So if endgame content won't be present in the next patch, at least can implement our own. With all that said, I wish for V-Rising to be the greatest game that ever was, or at least the greatest Stunlock game that is still alive and well next year. Hope for the next patch to be absolutely amazing, with nice progression and 200 paragons after Dracula. Also, they should totally add possibility to enchant animals, so I can build my own zoo inside my castle.